All right, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us today. I'm excited to speak with you. We're here at So Harlem and Young Atlas. We're all big fans. I get your weekly newsletters with all the upcoming events and stuff, so it's great. I appreciate that. And I wanted to start off the interview with really just, you're obviously a council member. You were a borough president, so you understand a lot about the importance of local politics. So I wanted to just hit off the interview with that. Like, can you just explain to our viewers what the importance of local politics is?
Well, it's a couple of things. In addition to thinking about the housing and the schools, it's how, as a council member or state senator or state assembly or district leader, if somebody has a particular problem, we work a lot with NYCHA, New York City Housing Authority, and example would be, what are these buildings experiencing and what are the tenants? And in Harlem, there's so much NYCHA, just to start. And making sure from the really specific level you can, as a tenant in a NYCHA development, rent stabilized, all the other kinds of ways that tenants and residents experience housing, if they have a home, there's usually an issue. And that's the kind of thing, either we can look at your individual problem, or in the NYCHA case, okay, this whole building has building-wide issues. We may not have the $80 billion that it's going to take to fix all of NYCHA, but what can we do about this development at this time? That's what local politicians and local input can resolve.
Gotcha. So what are some of those current issues, like let's say pertaining to NYCHA, that you're working on at the moment?
I mean, on housing, it's all fronts. Obviously, with NYCHA, it's usually succession rights. It could be a repair issue. Could be we need product, food for Family Day. NYCHA is huge, so there's almost every kind of support. But just generally on housing, if you are in a building that has repair issues, we can help bringing in housing preservation and development to do a building-wide survey, and then the owner is usually, I think I better do something. But we also have Mitchell-Lamas, we have low-income co-ops, known as HDFCs, and there's often a board issue. Sometimes they're having fights with the board. Sometimes there's always an issue. Can my son or daughter or niece get this apartment? So we can explain and get the right answer. It's hard. It's such a big city. We're bigger than half the countries in the world.
Right.
And we're bigger than every state except New York and California. We're big.
Yeah.
So when you're just a person, it's really hard to know where are my rights and where can I get my problem fixed. And that's what we can do. We can answer those questions. The seniors are desperate to have their rent frozen, which they can do if they make under $50,000.
Right.
So, please do that, because then you never have to pay an increase in rent. How do I do it? What forms do I have? I can't see well.
Gotcha.
That's what we do.
Okay, and I wanted to backtrack for a second because I think people don't understand initially why NYCHA was created. Now, generations of families are living in public housing. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that's why NYCHA was created. It was transitional at first, right?
Transitional, when you could get another apartment for an affordable rent. And now you have, somewhere close between 400 and 600,000 families or units, and then even more families.
Wow.
So it's huge. And the issue is, in the past, I've been here for many years, you can always, in the years of the 1970s, get another apartment. In 2023, as a family living in NYCHA, you have generations, because if you're living in Manhattan in particular, in Harlem, it's very hard to get another apartment. So you stay and we fight to have your apartment fixed up and all of NYCHA.
For sure, and that goes into another point I wanted to bring up. I saw in a previous interview, and I read the article myself, I think between 2000 and 2020 about that, close to 200,000 black families left New York City. It's been an issue with displacement. That goes back to housing. I have a couple theories of my own, but what do you think is causing such, massive displacement, for a lot of it for black people,
Well, it's really hard. Like, I have a friend, she was an African-American friend, and she was complaining the other day because her sister, she makes a good salary, so does her husband, and they've been here for a long time. Her sister works in a nonprofit. She works in the private sector, and the husband works for Trader Joe's. And they don't make a lot of money. They literally want to get, this particular sister wants to get married soon. They're in their early 30s. There's no place they feel, in Manhattan in particular, maybe other boroughs, but to live.
Yeah.
So they might move out of the city, which would be terrible. So to answer your question, what's really missing is a middle-class family.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the black families who left.
Right. And I think, just to be completely honest, when I speak to check the temperature with a lot of my, people my age, we're kind of, because I'm in my early 30s,
Yep.
a lot of us are losing hope. Like, it doesn't matter how hard you work. We're not like our parents who were able to do the right thing and buy a home. And it doesn't even make sense to sometimes rent. And I think government is not doing the best job of being transparent with some solutions that, or trying things at least. What are some ways we can maybe implement workforce housing? Some stuff. Like, I don't feel like we're trying things.
I agree. The best program in the whole world was the Mitchell-Lama co-op program. That was
Okay.
an example. And that's where a lot of families got started because you could only pay 30%. In this case, it would be for a co-op.
Okay.
But you could buy one for, $25,000, 2, 3, 4 bedrooms in a really good neighborhood, in a really good building. And that's the kind of housing that we need, because that could get you started. You could sell it make some money, not a killing.
Yeah.
Then you would be able to get your foot in the city of New York.
Gotcha.
That's the kind of housing we need to build. That's the kind of programs that the state and the city should be working on.
Yeah.
They had rental also. Again, getting started. But the co-op was very, very important to families trying to build asset.
Yeah.
And then trying to move on to something else. Many families didn't, because the families that I know loved that co-op.
Gotcha. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm trying to also understand what are some programs that we can implement for some of the essential workers in New York, the nurses, the teachers. What are your thoughts on workforce housing and implementing programs to keep these people staying and servicing the city close to it so they don't have the crazy commutes? And
that's what I would like to do. There's a couple, if we are able to convert some of these hotels, Midtown, and office buildings
yeah,
that are empty, and there's a lot of them,
that's true.
then we would have to be very clear. I would love to do the Mitchell-Lama co-op as an example.
Okay.
And it would have to be subsidized.
Yeah.
Because particularly the commercial buildings, and there's a lot of vacancies on the commercial buildings, and might be more because people are not going back to work, as you know.
Yeah.
And so the issue there would be you need subsidies because the conversion is expensive. It is not, the windows are on the outside, inside, no windows. So you have to really do a completely different kind of building.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
that makes sense.
that whole issue of conversion is being discussed now,
Yeah.
but it has to have subsidy.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're just going to have luxury condos, not even co-ops.
Gotcha. And that's a great transition. That's my next question, because obviously, Bloomberg mainly, and then de Blasio didn't help a lot with the rezonings and making it easier for luxury developers to build more housing. A lot of these developments are just vacant, and they're investment properties. No one's living in them. No one even knows who owns them. They got LLCs and shell companies that own them. How can we implement? What do you think about regulations on that? It doesn't seem fair to me if a New Yorker has an investment property and they're there once a year. But also, if I was in that guy's shoes, hopefully one day, I'd probably do the same thing. So, what can we do as a government to?
Well, this is a big issue. This is
Yeah.
a stick and a carrot and a stick issue. So
Yeah.
right now, this is frustrating to me. I talk about Manhattan because I want to talk about Harlem in particular. But in Harlem, with this gentrification everywhere, one example on the very controversial 145th Street project, as an example.
Right.
So in that case, that's a massive project.
Yeah.
The question there would be how much workforce housing, be it co-op or rental, you could get in there as opposed to market. The powers that be at City Hall, doesn't matter who's the mayor, they always say in Manhattan, Harlem included, they want to have as little subsidy as possible from the government. They want to have the market pay for the affordable. That's a problem.
Yeah.
As borough president, I could see it.
Yeah.
Because what happens is then you end up with an awful lot of condo type prices and not enough workforce housing
Right.
or even low income housing. Like I said, that's why I love the Mitchell-Lama model. The
Yeah.
Mitchell-Lama model was middle income, mostly co-ops, and some affordability within that was even lower. But it was teachers, people who work for the nonprofit sector who did well, but it wasn't millions.
Right.
And then they could move on after raising their families or whatever they wanted to do.
Right, and create that generational wealth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's also the tenant interim lease program, which if it was ever to get fully implemented, right now it's got some challenges, but there's about 78 buildings right now with lots of units that could be generational wealth in the sense that they're all co-ops. What we call Article 11, which means you pay maybe $2,500 or less,
Okay.
and then you could sell them as time goes on.
So let me ask you this.
So there are ways, but the city is so slow
Yeah.
pulling this off.
I'll ask you why they're slow in a second, but also want to ask if, just real quick, let's say for the 145 project, what do you think percentage-wise should go to workforce housing?
I mean, I would like to see, personally, 51%, I mean, I know that's a challenge because the developer is going to say, no, I need more for the wealthy condo high market.
Yeah.
And high market in Harlem is high right now.
Right, and that article just came out about the new studio apartments that are, I don't know, $2,100 a month,
Right.
or you've
The
probably
average
seen it.
rent is $45 or close to $5,000 a month.
Crazy.
And I think it's crazy.
Yeah.
So yes, I would like to see, but then you have to come up perhaps with some subsidy.
Right.
And it can't be market is going to pay for all of the affordable.
Yeah.
That's where you get into the challenge in the borough of Manhattan.
So let's talk a little bit about timelines with these things. We have a policy. You clearly have a pretty simple plan, it seems, on paper. What then gets it tied up? Why does it take so long to get these things?
I think
through?
the answer with the housing in general, in Manhattan in particular, it's easier in the Bronx because what you'll get told in 2 minutes is that the land is cheaper. And
Yeah.
so the city's more willing, and the state and the feds, to put in affordable, meaning subsidy.
Okay.
Because they say my dollar goes further.
Mm-hmm.
But Manhattan, Harlem in particular, has really expensive land. So we're not going to give you the extra subsidy here because we think the market can pay for it. So the
Yeah.
answer to your question is, I think really specifically, is that I want a different mindset for Harlem and other parts of Manhattan that says, okay, yes, we understand that there's more bang for the buck in the Bronx, but guess what we have in Manhattan? We have great transportation.
Mm-hmm.
We have, jobs closer to jobs. I know people working, 2.5 hours they're commuting to get to their job in Manhattan.
Wow.
And that's they're going to be late, snowstorm, they're not going to get here, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I would like to see more diversity in Manhattan. And the other thing is people always say, well, we want cops to not have, or others, not have to live outside of the city. But then they're going to tell you we need more workforce housing for cops, teachers, firefighters, sanitation, et cetera. People who work for the city and the nonprofit sector.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'd love to curate a discussion sometime soon to get some of these more ideas out here because I think that's something a lot of New Yorkers need to understand more.
And it's local government. To go back to your
Yeah.
original question, a lot of some issues get discussed in Albany, some issues in the city of New York. It has to be a combination, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I also would love, I know this is my crazy idea, but I have a bill on it for Ward's Island, which is right next to Randall's Island,
Yeah.
to make it the new Roosevelt Island. It's a whole bunch of land.
Yeah.
And to do this Mitchell-Lama housing, the co-op housing, the workforce housing that I'm talking about. Again, we need some big ideas.
Yeah.
I don't want to just talk about housing because we can talk about schools and parks and healthcare and, environment and climate. Because,
Yeah.
it's all part of asthma, trucks, all the things that hopefully all part of the same package. Like how do you keep people in New York healthy, and the arts,
Yeah.
making them more accessible.
Yeah. And no, I
But
completely
housing
agree.
is basic.
Housing is just like, it's so hard to even think about these other thoughts if you're worried about your roof over your head, So
Exactly. And having a place that you want to grow your family in that's not so expensive that you think, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? Which
Yeah.
is what my friend and her husband are like, how am I going to do this?
Right. Yeah, I can definitely relate. Millennials are in that tricky position. So to go on to some other topics, though, I wanted to ask about jobs, because I saw a stat that only 3%, around 3%, and around of all business owners in New York City are black, and 6% are Hispanic, something very low.
Very low.
What are some? 'Cause I like the big ideas that you have for housing, and I think they're executable. Honestly, what do you think what are some programs that we can do to start creating more jobs, specifically in Harlem?
Well, there's two issues on the job that we really need to improve. It's just called the MWBE program, but we do need to improve contracts with the city or the state or the feds for the community of color.
Yeah.
And it's because Michael Garner is the new head of the city's program. He came from the MTA. He has a really good record of increasing the MTA MBWE.
Okay.
And making sure that goes to black, also not just white women. Because it's a MBW, so it could be white women also.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of. I have friends who try to get into the program, and some of them say, "Forget it. It's too much paperwork. It's too complicated. I can get Pfizer. I can get Goodyear. I can do my own thing. I don't need to have all this paperwork." Because when you work with the big corporations, they too want MBWE. I can get better faster.
Yeah.
So why should I waste my time with the city? So to answer your question, just one way to grow is to have city contracts, and construction is the biggest, obviously the best.
Yeah.
But you could do stuff for food, you can do stuff for cleaning, you can do stuff for maintenance. We have 300,000 employees, and all the problems and everything is needed.
Interesting.
So I do think more when you're growing your business as a black community,
Yeah.
the city should be more responsive, and the city knows that. But it's like up here they know it, but then when it gets down here, all that bureaucracy kicks in.
Right.
That's only one way to grow your business, but it's a good way.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
No, that's effective. And speaking of Harlem, once again, I think not just in Harlem, but in New York overall, Columbia University, I think, is the biggest landlord in the city. There's been a project called Harlem on the Hudson that, with the Fairway property that they purchased, and some Harlem leaders I know met with Columbia's representatives, asked specifically if they had intention to develop that property. They said no, and a few months later, we saw an article that came out that they purchased Fairway for $84 million. So, it's inevitable as a nonprofit college with such an endowment that they're going to grow, but there has to be some middle ground of community benefits, like 200,000 square feet a year that the government let happen. I know there's not a specific question there, but I want to get into that topic with you a little bit.
I think, Columbia, NYU downtown is like an octopus.
Yeah.
So, it's not only the Fairway. Look at the McDonald's site.
Yeah.
That was very challenging. I was borough president when they had every right to do what they want. They had no interest in affordable. There's not one unit of affordable in there.
Yeah.
They are going to do the hotel for the families, I guess, and then they're going to put an elevator at the number 1 train, which needs it. But that's their community benefit, which is fine, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
And I would say, there are jobs, and it was all negotiated for what we call the Manhattanville campus. Mm-hmm. But the Fairway is a whole new ball game, so to speak. That would be the example with there's a new president of the university. There's new leadership at the university, at Barnard and at Columbia.
Yeah.
And I think the community needs to sit down with them and say, you really need to work with us. Columbia has never, in a meaningful way, done that. I was the Manhattanville campus came about before I was in the borough president. I was still in the city council at the time, because I was in the city council before. Robert Jackson was in the council at the time and negotiated the Manhattanville. I don't know that I hope that it's a different time. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
We are so desperate for this housing situation, and Columbia should be part of the solution and not the problem. They've been very challenging. There are obviously individual professors like Esther Fuchs and others who have reached out, but I can't say that it's been anything but individuals.
Gotcha.
I think it's a good example of where they could make a difference.
Yeah, because I think that that pier, if there's some type of tourist attraction, and then we use the great enterprising, aspects of Harlem to bring in local grassroots businesses and entertainment, that can be a very, if it's done the right way, it can be a very profitable area that can generate a lot of jobs, and can be a solution to some of these problems. Yep. But I wanted to talk about a couple of more current different types of issues that are happening, specifically with the asylum seekers that are in New York now. Can you talk a little bit about why we're seeing such an influx in asylum seekers in New York?
Yep. I know, just because I was meeting with some of the education people, just to give you, the numbers are staggering. 11,000 asylum children in the school system right now.
Wow.
And obviously close to 100,000 individuals, families and individuals. So those are big numbers. The schools, I have to be honest with you, are ecstatic because post-pandemic, and you talked about the black families who are leaving, a whole bunch of families left the public school system.
Okay. I
don't know where they went. Did they go upstate? Did they go to North Carolina? Did they go to DR? They left. Mm-hmm. And so the schools were under-enrolled. But now with this 11,000, it's making a big difference.
Gotcha.
So and then, of course, the crisis could be, they're going to leave because they got jobs or because they got working papers or the city pulled them out. Who knows? But I'd say right now, it's a big plus for the schools. And I want people to understand that because the kids are smart. They've come, and I can't even imagine, 6 countries they've walked through with their parents, et cetera. So for the schools, it's a plus. The numbers have gone down quite a bit in terms of every day, but they're still coming 100, 200, sometimes a day, sometimes a week, depending. And it's costing the city a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm very supportive of them. I have lots of hotels for children and families and then individuals, right, in my district and around Manhattan.
Okay.
And I'm very, you have to be careful because you don't want those who are homeless New Yorkers to feel that how come others are getting so much support. Yeah. But the asylum families don't have any money. They cannot get public assistance. They cannot get food stamps. They can get Medicaid. Okay. And they can't go to school. Okay. They obviously cannot work. They may be working, but they have to be really careful because they will get perhaps ripped off because the owner of the business can say, I don't have to pay you. Why do I have to pay you? And that is happening. So I would say, to me, it's a positive. Yeah. And I don't want people to think otherwise because we have restaurants. We're sitting here now. The restaurant owners are ecstatic. Yeah. Because they couldn't get anybody to work in the restaurant. I hope they're paying them what they're supposed to be paid. But they're all working in the restaurants and they're delivering food. Yeah. And the women are trying to cook. You can see them out on the streets and selling stuff. So if they could only get the working papers with the president, which is the problem, then they would all be working. And upstate needs them, we need them, etc.
So it seems like it can be a plus, and one of the main barriers is expediting their working papers.
That is the main barrier. Gotcha. Absolutely. And that's the president. That's Mr. Biden.
Okay. So he would have to put in a bill to make that just speed up that process.
He just has to sign temporary protective status for Venezuelans.
Gotcha.
Done.
Gotcha.
He hasn't done it.
Okay.
I mean, the Haitians, the Nicaraguans, the Ukrainians, depending on the date that they came, can get working papers.
Okay.
Some of the Africans cannot either.
Gotcha.
So there's a whole group that need working papers.
And to go a little bit more general, what are some of the other major issues that we haven't talked about yet? I know it's a laundry list.
Public education.
Okay.
I think that's a big one. I mean, we have, many schools, 1,800 schools, 1 million. And if we're not careful, we're going to lose them to charter schools or private schools, or they're going to leave, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
So the schools, the mayor kept pretty much, for now, whole. In other words, it didn't cut the education budget. But it sounds like, so much money goes to education. But just think what we're dealing with. In one school in Queens, there's 186 languages, right? Just one school.
Wow.
So that means language is becoming a bigger issue. And so we have to translate, right? In addition, you have a lot of 11,000 all need extra social work. If I came through 6 countries and climbed, rivers and so on and so forth, and mental health.
Yeah.
But just those of us who live here need mental health.
Yeah.
Because it's hard living here.
Yeah.
And it's expensive living here. And you know all the issues that go with that. So you need extra social workers, to answer your question.
Yeah.
You need also, these are not things that were typically in the schools, right? And then you also need, I think, I'm a huge believer in the arts, because to me, arts help you with your mental health.
Yeah.
So I think you need to pay for that. And then, of course, we need more math teachers. We need more community of color teachers. We need more literacy teachers. We need science teachers. We need to pay them enough so that they are interested in being teachers as opposed to lawyers or journalists or something else.
Right.
So the schools are not like they used to be, like, okay, you go to school and that's it. You don't have all these extra things. You need after-school programs because parents are working 2 jobs sometimes.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be able to pick up the kid at 3 or 2:30.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So what the answer to your question is, public education needs a hard look on it being like a community service and not just, school.
yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense, and I think I wanted to ask a little bit about your thoughts on the rising homelessness in New York City as well. Like, what are some remedies that we can have to that issue?
Well, something happened. De Blasio promised, 500,000 more units. We need 524,000 units in the city of New York just to keep up.
Yeah.
Not just for homeless, but for everybody, for the workforce housing, like you said,
Yeah.
and just that, like that. So the homelessness, I think it's around 50,000 or something New Yorkers,
Okay.
and another something like 81,000 from I think or have been in the care or are in the care in terms of the asylum folks.
Yeah.
So the numbers are over 100,000 now.
Wow.
All right, so with the 50,000-ish New Yorkers who are homeless, it's like what you said, there aren't enough. Now, with NYCHA, there's a thing with NYCHA. They have vacant apartments, which would fit the income of those who are homeless.
Okay.
However, they're not fixed up. I know one development that I have, it's got 40 vacant apartments. That's a lot. That's just one development.
Yeah.
So multiply that times, there are 6,200 vacancies in NYCHA right now.
Wow.
And that's very affordable, but they're not fixed up. It's part of this issue that we talked about earlier. Why is it so slow? Why does it take so long?
Yeah.
And I don't know, we're all pushing with NYCHA right now on that issue.
Yeah.
Do you have to fix the roof first because there's mold in the apartment, and there's mold in the apartment because the roof leaks, and then if your roof leaks, obviously the rain is going to come in down to that apartment.
Gotcha.
So in every situation, it's different. I would say that the homeless, NYCHA is one solution, and the other is building supportive housing. A lot of the folks not all, but they need the supportive housing, which means it's a social worker. Doesn't mean the social worker is going to bug you, but there's a social worker in the building.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these families, even when they move into NYCHA, because there is a unit available, the NYCHA residents, whom I love and respect tremendously, why is this family out of control? Why can't we screen the family before they move in? The NYCHA families, like you said, they're often generational.
Yeah.
They are so together. They often work.
Yeah.
Most of them work, or they're seniors. But they just don't have a big income.
Yeah.
And they work well together. But when you bring in a family that hasn't been in a home and has, different ideas about what it is to live in an apartment, then you have a problem. So the answer to your question, I think, is NYCHA apartments, build more supportive housing, and then you just need other kinds of work, like you said, workforce housing, so that people have a place to go.
Gotcha.
30% of the NYCHA resident, 30% of the homeless are working.
Yeah.
Many for the city of New York.
Wow. So we're not doing a good job as a city taking care of our own, really.
No, 30% of homeless work, many of them for the city. It's very shocking to me. I know there was a building on 107th Street with fabulous women homeless. Where are you going? I'm going to work. Where you were? I work for the Department of Social Services. That building you could have been in the fanciest Harlem building.
Yeah.
That's where they were. These were classy, classy women.
Wow.
And they just make low salaries.
Yeah.
And they don't have ability to get an apartment.
Yeah.
They could have an apartment tomorrow, and they'd be the best neighbors you ever wanted to live next door to.
Right.
But we need the housing, you're right. That's workforce housing. That will be an example of workforce housing.
Gotcha. And that's interesting, too, like you said. I guess that's something our viewers will learn, and I learned doing a little bit of research on it, that someone who doesn't have a home, you can't just put them into a home. There has to be some type of onboarding process, or they won't be able to value that asset and understand how to take care of that resource. So
Right.
that's a skill that has to be taken into account, I guess, for new homeowners. What are some like, let's say, some process people can take in terms of what services are there available for people that are trying to, let's say, take a new path, get their mental health in check that New York has?
There is Housing Connect, which is, again, local government.
Yeah.
And that's a housing program for the city where you can get an application, fill it out, and get called for the lottery. And it's including low-income housing and workforce housing.
Yeah.
The trouble is, if you have, I'm making this up, 140 units, then you're going to have 3,000 applications. So that's the problem.
Wow.
So the issue is the need is there. There's just not enough supply.
Gotcha.
Plenty of demand, just not enough supply. So, but I think if you are trying to get yourself together, the services are out there. Language is an issue. I want to be honest with you. That, as I indicated earlier, we have a lot of languages in New York, and we have an increasing number of languages. So, if too much of our material, I'm guilty of it also, is in English. So if you want to fill out an application, you often have to get somebody to help you. There is translation, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
So if you have mental health issues and you're homeless, the idea is to work with a social worker wherever the program is, whatever shelter you're in.
Yeah.
And make your application. They do the same thing. They go through the Housing Connect and in that case, if you're trying to get yourself together and you have mental health issues, maybe you have substance abuse, that would be supportive housing.
And it seems like it must be frustrating for yourself when you said 6,200 available units that just needs work.
They need to be work, and obviously they need, like how you said, each individual person, each individual unit has its own problems, but they all need money, and they all need to be fixed up one way or the other. Yes. Wow. It's very frustrating.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's almost the end of the day, so let's get a little bit more positive with some things, if possible, in this overwhelming city. What have been some things that you're really looking forward to, or some accomplishments you've recently had?
Well, I think the arts. I mean, there's a lot of summer free, high quality arts. In the parks.
I agree.
And at Lincoln Center, and at Carnegie Hall, and at the Apollo, and at the Marcus Garvey, and at St. Nick's.
Did you see the Shakespeare at Marcus Garvey?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was incredible.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that program.
Yeah.
I love the guy who runs it. Yes, I did. And it's everywhere. So I would say the City of New York, through the Department of Cultural Affairs and other entities, has great free art. And we just need more of it, because when you sit there and you see that, and then I went to Shakespeare in the Park and saw Hamlet. It's amazing productions.
Yeah.
So yes, I think all of that is something that we should be very proud of.
You're so right. And I think if you're a New Yorker, if you can prove that you live here, you can go to the Met for like $1.
You can go to the Met, you can go to the American Museum of Natural History.
Right.
Yes, I never paid more than $1.
Yeah, I love that. And to go on a little bit more, top of your head, other than obviously the arts, couple of other reasons why you love New York City.
The parks. I mean, just generally the parks. The notion that you can go to Riverside, or you can go to Marcus Garvey. You can go up to the fire tower. You can have a picnic. They're basically clean and well kept. There's obviously issues, but they have. We need more of them. We need more open space. One proposal I have. We have some schoolyards that are open on the weekends.
Okay.
And I would open more schoolyards on the weekends because you're going by with the kids and you see this basketball court and you can't get in.
Right.
So that's the kind of thing. But the
that.
parks are great, and I think also we have amazing services for people.
Yeah.
We do have food programs. We do have for people who are hungry. We do have these programs.
Yeah.
The seniors. I know we're talking more about young people, but the seniors have senior centers.
Yeah.
We do have amazing sports programs for young people. I think we should have more that are free. The district attorney is doing more with some of his money now for Saturday Night Lights.
I like that.
But I think we should be doing more with his assets, as we call them.
Okay.
But we do need more sports programs for young people.
Yeah.
I would open the community centers at the New York City Housing Authority more often if we could. They usually open 5 or 6 days a week, but it would be good to be 7 and be later into the evening.
Yeah, I agree.
But again, they exist. The programs exist. As somebody said the other day to me, people just don't know that we have English as a second language. They don't know that the library, which is my favorite place, is open. The libraries are fantastic. Do we need more money to have them open more hours? Yes. But
how many days a week is the library
usually
open?
6.
Okay.
But
we should get that to 7.
6 could be, but also could be 6, from 1 to 6, as
Okay.
opposed from 9 to 10 o'clock at night,
Right.
which is what I would look for.
Right. Because if they're, let's say, in transitional situation, they might be living in the shelter, that's a great way to get back on their feet.
Exactly. And the
Okay.
librarians know that and love it and like to help.
Yeah.
And the librarians are so informed, and they do have you can get your own email account there. You can even take a laptop out,
Yeah.
And with your library card, you can get, into some free things with your library card.
Yeah.
We're big believers in the municipal ID, which is another wonderful thing, and the library card. They can get you, places that you wouldn't normally get to go.
Yeah. Okay. A few more fun questions. You're a New Yorker. You like pizza?
I like pizza. I like with something on it usually.
What's your favorite slice, would you say, and best slice in New York City?
Where to go, you mean, or just?
Your favorite, Me and Kenny always talk about it.
I go to this one down near City Hall. I hate to say this, on Park Place and Park Row. There's
Okay.
really good pizza. The guy around the corner, but I mean, as long as it's not Domino's, I'll be honest with you. I'll go anywhere. But don't give me Domino's pizza. I hate to say that. I know I probably shouldn't say it on your show, but
No, that's fine.
I like the local York pizza. Not
I like Sal and
Domino's.
Carmine's. That's
Yes.
on the Upper West Side. I love Patsy's on the Upper East Side.
Yeah, those are excellent.
Those are some good ones.
They're really good.
What would you say makes a great politician?
I think you have to be transparent. You have to be honest with people. You can't tell one thing to one group and another thing to another group.
Yeah.
You have to also work hard for people and not stay in the ivory tower somewhere.
Yeah.
When I was borough president, I thought, I hope I did a good job, but one of the things I did was to take the office out of the state office building and put it on the street.
Gotcha.
So now it's a storefront, and it's the only borough president that has a storefront. The rest of them are in, beautiful buildings.
Yeah, that's right near us.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think the answer to your question, and then you have to be, you have to take a stand. You can't be, I don't know about this. You have to actually take some hard stands, which, I do. When you build homeless housing and you have mental health housing, you should see people have a fit
Yeah.
in Harlem and everywhere else.
Yeah.
But if it's well run, I'm going to be supportive because those folks need housing.
Yeah. I guess I just have a few more questions for you. The cannabis clubs, obviously, that's been popping up all over the city now. What are your thoughts on cannabis? How can we, I think it's dangerous for high schoolers, and some of the parents are nervous. But it can also be, I think if it's maybe regulated a good way to create local jobs. So what are your thoughts on it?
I'm very supportive of the state law. I mean,
Yeah.
the state law is now got 21, they should have many more, but they have 21 legal around the state.
Okay.
I think, I don't know, 9 or something in the city.
Okay.
So those should be supported between the State Office of Cannabis Management and the Dormitory Authority. They should be doing more. They have 483 licenses that have been granted, but those folks need help in citing. Now, we have another problem. I understand that the big cannabis companies brought the lawsuit and then threw in the disabled veterans. So that screwed it up even more.
Gotcha.
And so that's, the fact that it's paid for by the big companies is very discouraging.
Okay.
So that's the positive side in terms of if we could get more legal cannabis. The other problem is the upstate growers have been growing cannabis, and now they can't have a place to sell it.
Gotcha.
So that's one issue. Now, the other issue is, 1,400 illegal cannabis places. And that's where many of them near high schools. And in Harlem, all over the place.
Yeah.
And the issue there is the cannabis is coming from California. I don't know about its quality.
Yeah.
They also have cigarettes from North Carolina with no legal stamp.
Yeah.
I've been with the sheriff several times to do the raids, and they open the next day. So, and there's a million laws. There's a state law now, there is the sheriff, there's the cops, there's the Corporation Council doing nuisance laws, and the district attorney of Manhattan, who's going after the owners. It doesn't seem to be doing much. I have friends who are going, they think the illegal shops are legal. You don't know exactly what's in it, in the California cannabis.
Yeah.
And the vaping with the kids and the underage purchase. They are, one place in the Bronx is open at 7 a.m. near a school. Now, who's going to be near a school at 7 a.m.?
Yeah.
Except somebody who's looking for trouble and money.
Right.
They must be making a fortune.
Yeah.
I go in just to see what's going on. I'm always curious.
Yeah.
I don't see that many people in there, but they're making money. I don't know how they're paying the Harlem rents, which are not inexpensive.
Right. That's crazy.
I don't know how they're paying them unless there's something else going on, or people. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we have not been able to shut down the illegal ones.
Right. And if it's so hard to prove, but there must be some type of network where if hey, we got raided. There's like they throw up a message and then they're all shut down. Like that doesn't make any. Yeah.
When the sheriff raids them, I've been there. Then the whole rest of the avenue closes down for lunch.
Right.
But it's lunch all day.
That's crazy.
They all know each other.
Wow.
And so, but the issue is, I don't know what you're selling, and you are going to be undermining the legal who are criminally justice involved and who deserve to get a break.
Yeah.
And if you sell to my high school kids who've already had 2 years out of school, thanks to the pandemic, and have enough issues to get graduating, and you're selling to them, and they do.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah,
for me.
that's messed up. And it's also like the lesser of two evils, though, if you look at it as well. It's better than them doing these pills with potentially fentanyl in it,
Yes, well, there might be some fentanyl in that.
That's true.
Cannabis.
And that's a big issue as well. The fact that I guess it's not as dangerous as in Manhattan as it once was, but the open air drugs is out of control, and it's scary.
Well, the open air guns is out of control too.
Yeah.
You can get both.
Yeah, that's true.
When I was here all during the 70s, as your family was, I'm sure. Yeah. And we all saw crack, but we didn't have guns. So the guns are a problem. And also, the crack wasn't laced with fentanyl. Crack was bad, as was AIDS, and was things that we all lived through in migration. Yeah. But no guns, no fentanyl.
How can we? Well, let's start with the fentanyl. What are some ways to start getting it off the streets?
I am not the expert. I don't know the guns. It's a national issue. Yeah. The other states, and I don't know when that's going to stop with the National Rifle Association. That is where the blame goes. Period. End of discussion. NRA. And then I don't know enough about the fentanyl. Yeah. I mean, we all have strips in case I walk around with fentanyl strips.
Yeah.
Not to say that I would, I would help. I don't know if I could be helpful, but I'll try.
Yeah.
And I've been trained how to use, drugs that could help people so they don't die. But that that's one-on-one. That is not the overall issue.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know how much is coming from other countries and the relationships and the horrific people who are manufacturing it and selling it.
Yeah. And I think
And lacing it.
it goes back to mental health, like you were discussing, having.
Well, it's mental, I mean, the bad guys are the ones who are selling it.
Yeah.
And who are manufacturing it.
Right. If you're in a place, if you're in a stable place, you're not as likely to cop, let's say.
And also during the people, as I understand it, during the pandemic, people became unhoused for a whole bunch of reasons.
Yeah.
And when you're unhoused, then you don't take your meds. And so then your mental health issues kick in. So I had 35 foster care kids, so I know how difficult it can be for young people who have mental health issues and who don't take their meds. You really have to take, if you're prescribed and they're done correctly with good medical care. So I don't know how much, because don't forget the fentanyl, the guns, the mental health, the pandemic. It's really, in New York City and Harlem, it's created a lot.
Yeah.
We got hit, but I talk to people in other cities because I'm on the board of the National League of Cities. They don't have asylum seekers, and they don't have mental health like we do. At least, San Francisco, LA, but not in the middle of the country at all.
Yeah.
They don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's
So because they didn't have the pandemic.
it really took a toll on New Yorkers.
It took a big toll.
Some people have not recovered whatsoever
Right.
from it. It was a crazy time.
It was a very crazy time. What, 30,000 people or something?
Yeah.
Died here?
Yeah.
A lot of people, 33,000.
But we're a resilient group.
Yes, we are.
We're going to bounce back, and I really appreciate you coming in. This is a great conversation. We need to do it again soon. If
I
that's
would be
possible.
honored, and I'm so happy to be here. I can't tell you. It's so great that you're doing this.
I really enjoy it. I think it's I started off doing entertainment stuff, so it's a good way to kind of connect the two, entertainment, politics, New York. We're like a gumbo of media over here. That's
Well,
like
the hip-hop thing has been exciting in the sense that to know all that's happened in 50 years,
it's incredible.
it's really incredible. And,
Yeah.
when you see that black parties and the support that has garnered and the jobs, it's, yay New York.
Yeah.
Yay New York. And that's local, too. That's local politics because they had
Definitely.
that interest because they had to make, opportunities available for people, giving them the breadth to do their music and the locations to do their music. I can't tell you specifically what local government did, but I'm sure people in the Bronx were supportive. You need
100%.
space, you need funding, you need to do your music. Yes, we'll let this go.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
I'm excited to see the official. I went to the pop-up, but I'm excited to see the official hip hop museum in their new space coming soon. Last question for you: what are you most looking forward to before the end of the year to get done?
I would like to see. I'm a big public school fan. I have to say that as we open the schools, I was meeting with one of the local superintendents today. He's got 30 schools. And I want to make sure that everybody has free after school and quality. And of course, he has to worry about the curriculum.
Yeah.
But we, as you said, local government, we can worry about everybody has food in terms of the asylum, that people who are New Yorkers who are low income, many in temporary housing in Harlem, that they have the ability to get back and forth to school. That's, that they have the community services, the wraparound services, as we call them. So I have to say my biggest wish is for the education. We all can talk about housing and jobs and healthcare and quality of life, but that's where I put my money and my support.
I agree, and I would say we were briefly touching on it, but more incentives to get these kids also on a path to education, on a path to mental health, to get involved in these curriculums. Like you said, not everyone can just be a lawyer and try and make a bunch of money, And
also, the schools can be the place where parents can get support as well as the family, if it's done right. That's what I call a community school or community atmosphere.
Yeah.
So that's what I think could be beneficial to all of us. And the workforce of the future is between the schools and CUNY.
It is.
CUNY is our jewel in New York.
Yeah, and they have good resources.
Yes, and you need those resources. And of course, we always do every year, have all the principals, all the schools, and all the arts organizations come together, like at a museum, to say, principals, these are all the, aspects of our community that you could take advantage of.
Yeah.
It could be Alvin Ailey, it could be Ballet Hispanico, it could be the museum, but there's plenty of other groups out there too.
Yeah. So if you want to tell the viewers if they're interested in contacting you, trying to get involved in the organization, how does that process work?
So the office is 212-873-0282.
Okay.
And my email is gbrewer, G for Gale, BREWER, @council.nyc.gov. And on all social media, it's just Gale A. Brewer.
Amazing.
For everything.
And I'm looking forward to your next weekly roundup to see what's going on in this great city of ours. Well, we're going to have you back soon. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much. This is really exciting to be here.
No problem. It was fun. Awesome.